We finally got an infantry-only map in Battlefield 2022, and in true Locker and Metro style, it's a complete mayhem. Even the design of the map, the tactics for Breakthrough and Conquest will be similar, so this video should give you plenty of value no matter of your preference. Although obviously some of you clearly have bad taste, but more about that later. Oh yeah, I'm going to teach you a secret that is really powerful as well. It's something that can totally change the tide of a situation, turning it in your favor.
So young and foolish!
When playing Redacted, it's clear that DICE has put a lot of thought into the flank routes of the map. Before all Breakthrough fans start to cry, hear me out a bit. So to explain this for everyone, when playing Conquest, there are flank routes outside the flank routes in Breakthrough. So if you play Conquest, you can actually go on a flank from pretty much one main to another, and you can break back into the map in a number of places. So the outer flank route provides access to anywhere on the map. When you play Conquest, that is vital, because that means that there is pretty much always opportunities to go around the enemy, and you can backcap them. And even if the enemy team as such is a dominant force in gunfight, this allows for surprisingly even matches, and when looking at the score at least. Although that is provided that someone actually does the job and doesn't just run into the closest battle for one kill, one death. Also, if you look at the minimap, every now and then you will be able to spot enemy activity or friendly deaths in the tunnels. Obviously, if you only see dead friendlies, then chances are that there is at least one enemy squad lurking about. That gives great opportunities for traps and other mischief, giving the enemy an unpleasant surprise when they try to leave the tunnel system. When it comes to Breakthrough, parts of the map have been locked away. I have to admit that at first I thought it was very odd, and I wonder what DICE was thinking, but after a few Breakthrough rounds on either side, I think that I understand. So basically today there are 4 routes into the mid domes, even 5 on one of them I think. There is the mid left and mid right, providing a direct route to the objective. Because there are 2 openings, you can distribute the forces to keep the defender honest, and in the defending area, most positions allow for good cover and position from one choke point, but are vulnerable for the other. Then there are the flank routes outside the central part, providing additional openings to get around the defender. If the defenders disperse themselves adequately, they should be able to cover all entrances, making the attackers work to get inside. It's hard, but it's not impossible. However, if we were to add the outer flanks, then suddenly there would be 5 or even 6 entrances to keep track of. I think that is a bit too much for the defenders, and as I see it, that is the main reason for moving that part in Breakthrough. If it would have been left, the attacker would have easily won every time. Now, this result of the matches seems to be more varied, which I suppose is what we want, right? Especially when playing Breakthrough, it's quite common, you know. Someone writes in chat and it's like, you smoke. Yeah, you smoke. That's all you need. Preferably with capital letters, and if the round continues to go south, the same player may very well write something about new team or whatnot. A smoke is essential, but misguided tactic. I'm going to drill down a bit on the subject. The most common misconception about smoke is just use more smoke and we'll win. This is obviously wrong as a general statement. Battlefield isn't about producing the best smoke, it's about claiming or defending objectives, with occasional deaths in between. One almost equally common misconception is that if we just use more smoke, we will be able to break through the enemy lines. Well, again, throwing smoke itself doesn't present any winning value. It must be done right. And for that, we need to start by dividing the usage into 2 very different purposes. Then later we will go through a fairly common counter tactic against smoke and how we should counter the counter tactic. As a bonus, I'm going to let you know a secret usage of smoke that is just so powerful. Honestly, it is. And yeah, I know it's sort of a clickbait, but truly it's really powerful. But I rarely see players do it on purpose. Let's have a look at the offensive smokers, as that is probably the most common area of usage. What normally happens is that every player in the team rapidly dumps all the smoke they can carry into the path they are running, and then they all run through the smoke and die. Well, That's not how we want to do it, and if you hang around I'll tell you what to do instead. But before that, if you find this video useful, make sure to hit that thumbs up so others can get better at Battlefield 2042 as well, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss any future videos like this. Remember, sharing is caring, so let everyone know about it. Alright, no more commercials, let's get down to business. First of all, as the attacker, you have the opportunity to choose when to attack. I'm not only talking about Breakthrough now. All Battlefield 2042 game modes contain a moment of attack for at least one of the teams. Usually it's something that happens many times in micro sessions within the full round, in for instance Conquest. But regardless of game mode, this same theory applies. The attacker chooses when to attack. That also means that as an attacker there is really no reason to charge in without a proper preparation of ammunition, health, or if you need to take it down. As you want to charge in, using smoke is generally a good approach to conceal your movement. This action has the direct motive of obscuring the sightlines of the defending team, allowing attackers to either get past unseen or to charge through the smoke in force. However, as an attacker, when trying to push through a choke point, you want the smoke in the right place, otherwise it will actually just make it all worse, and that is unfortunately far too common. If defenders are defending in the choke point, you want to smoke the defender themselves. This is important. You don't want to put the smoke in front of defenders if you're going to charge. You want to put the smoke on the defenders. The goal of smoking the defenders is to limit the number of guns that can fire at you with effect. When there's smoke, some will fire randomly, especially if they carry LMGs or Vulcans. If you get hit, that is tough luck, but you want to prevent them from actually seeing you, taking advantage of the fact that you are charging in and choosing when to do so. If the defender stands their ground, that means that you have the advantage of knowing when you step in, and theoretically you should get the first shot. If the enemy has fallen back, so instead of defending in the choke point itself, they force you to pass through the choke as they fire at you, well, smoke can be useful here as well, but this is one of the situations where so many players struggle on Redacted. I mean, especially where there is some open space before reaching the first cover after the choke, it's really important to smoke the enemies, not the area in front of them. And especially not the choke itself. That is very counterproductive as an attacker. Again, we want to conceal ourselves, getting as much benefit as possible from being the attacker and you choosing when to charge. As a defending smoker, you have the advantage of picking where to fight. That is the general advantage of a defender. You can choose to defend in the choke point, or if you find it more beneficial, you can defend outside the choke, limiting the number of enemies that can push it at you at once. Alternatively, limiting the area and protection that the enemies can use while pushing it. It goes without saying that defending in front of the choke is just a movie stunt, and nothing that really works under normal circumstances. So don't go into the fight inspired by Peter Jackson, so such stupid hero play will just make most of you sad. If we look to real life, it's even rarely beneficial to defend the choke itself unless you want to buy time. While defending the choke itself was a good tactic in the movie Kingdom of Heaven, a few things have changed since the Second and Third Crusade. For instance, most soldiers today carry guns, while the shields and other medieval contraptions are rare, well, in real life at least. In terms of tactics, the same often apply in Battlefield 2042, with a twist that dice like provide some cover inside the choke and leave some open space in front or in conjunction after. As defenders in Battlefield 2042 still have the benefit of picking the place but lack the opportunity of fortifying the position, we just have to use whatever is on the map as best as we can. Still, defending outside the choke point is usually what you want to do, so that's what we're going to focus on. Generally speaking, as a defender, you don't want to smoke yourself unless you either do pike or panic. Instead, to reap the full benefit of the smoke, you want to smoke either the enemy or in front of the enemy, but still with a fair amount of distance from yourself. As a defender, the main goal isn't only to obscure the sightlines of the attacker, but also to enable your own sightlines. As the enemy charges through the smoke, you will have the benefit of having a pretty good picture of where the enemy will be, while they have to pick an angle. Given that you have a smaller window of focus, less distractions and less adjustments for effective fire, the defender has a clear advantage as long as the smoke is in front of them, especially if the attacker trickles through the choke point indecisively one by one. If we instead imagine the defense in the choke, you can't really get the same benefit of the smoke unless you know when and where the enemies are attacking. Although the attacker can actually opt to just go around smoke in that case, or negating most of its effect, since you as a defender can't know for sure if everyone is walking around or some lunatic rushed straight through, you are instead sitting with a wide angle without knowing exactly when and where the enemy will appear. Regardless if you play as an attacker or a defender, you usually have some opportunity to kite the other part. Depending on your situations, you may not want to do so, but for instance, if you're playing as a defender in the choke and the attacker is smoking you, probably it's better to do an early retreat to build some distance between you and the smoke and choke, and instead benefit from attacker trying to push through the smoke blindly. If you as an attacker are attacking a choke and the defender is smoking parts of the area, you can always go around the smoke or take a gamble and push through. But there are also other methods where you can benefit from smoke regardless of where and how it's deployed. Judging by the number of pike roaming in Redacted, I'd say that at least a fair share has some conception of some basic advantage of seeing through walls and other things that obscure vision. Because one of the goals of using smoke is to obscure vision, pike will always have a great advantage. As such, pike is the natural and probably only counter to smoke itself. Everything else are methods to handle the situation that occurs, but I'd say that it's only pike that actually counters the effect of the smoke itself, as she sees when no one else does. She's even that good that she doesn't only counter the effect of the smoke, she benefits from it. Pike can see through smoke using a pike vision. She can easily turn the smoke to her benefit. This is important to understand because that means that if you deploy smoke, you might help the enemy rather than gaining an advantage yourself. It would be counterproductive to say the least. There are two different approaches to handle pike, especially as a defender. The first approach is to add some distance to the smoke. The range of pike vision is limited, and as a defender you pick where to defend. By backing off from the smoke you might still reap the same benefit as before, but without giving pike the treat to use her vision to lock on to you. This is obviously the preferred approach, but sometimes there isn't enough room to back off, or there might be cover in between that can benefit the attackers. If so, there is a second method which is slightly more radical. Simply stop smoking. Yeah, just stop. The idea to smoke is to give you an advantage. If the smoke instead gives away the advantage to the enemy, then it's better to simply stop doing it. If you don't smoke, pike won't gain anything from a pike vision, and you will at least remain status quo with the enemy. If the enemy is coming through a choke, you still have the advantage as a defender because you have less angles to control, and you pick your positions with cover and all in advance. However, if you are looking to the attacking side, you don't really have the same possibilities. If you back off, there will be no push, and suddenly you might end up defending. Unless you play Breakthrough, and that might actually be worth it, assuming that you can win the defense and then counter to gain ground. For Breakthrough, however, the risk is that you simply get consumed by time. But again, as an attacker, you have the advantage of choosing when to fight, so if you are getting pike, you can just hold off and wait a few seconds before you push in, or you can mad lad fast and hope that the moments between pike's waves are enough for you to keep you alive. Smokes are generally used to obscure vision of the enemy, but there is more to smoke than just that. On Redacted and in other places, especially where you got choke points, it's popular to deploy fire. Fire can do a lot of damage, zone off certain areas and kill doses, while it tanks most explosives and carries the shield to avoid damage from guns. However, the smoke can extinguish fire, really useful actually, not least when reviving. Just throw some smoke on the fire and it's gone. I don't think anyone has missed the shotgun mayhem going on at Redacted. Shotguns are made for close combat and they are very effective in Battlefield 2042. Some of them have a really high rate of fire as well, which can get you out of hairy situations where there are many enemies or if you miss a shot or two. but there are plenty of more weapons that you can use in Redacted. The SMGs in Battlefield 2042 are very potent. K30 has decreased a lot in popularity, but with Big Mag it's still a beast when you're up close and personal. Pretty much any SMG will actually do the job for you. If you start to look at the assault rifles, they aren't that bad on Redacted either, but you will have to try and keep enemies at an arm's length at least. If you're a bit more conservative in your movements, you should be able to keep your enemies in front of you, allowing you to fire the first shot. I wouldn't suggest them for new players necessarily, but once you know the map a bit, you can probably find good use of them still. Looking at the rest of the weapons, sniper rifles are pretty much useless. Normally you don't have very long sight lines, most are within 50 meters, and players tend to bunch it together, so having NTV-50 isn't really viable either unless the enemies panic on first kill or something. I don't think it makes sense to go much deeper into the weaponry on Redacted. Obviously vehicle mines are very useless, but you still see them surprisingly often. I don't know why. Redacted is one of those maps where I question the decision making of enabling all of them for both Conquest and Breakthrough. My most epic breakthrough moment comes from maps where the progress of objectives form a natural and exciting push in a battle context. Great examples are Iwo Jima in Battlefield 5, probably the best experience in that game. It just feels very authentic to land on the beach and fight your way up to solid ground. Once a foothold is created, it makes sense to continue to push up the hill for the strategically well-placed main base. The entire map and design just feel very realistic and not very far from at least how a movie would picture it. Amazing. With that said, looking at Redacted is not really anything like that. Not at all, actually. I mean, in the early weeks, or at least early days, it was completely impossible for attackers to win. This has changed a little bit. You can actually flank and break through as well on Redacted. People manage to get through surprisingly often. Sure, but still. I find Redacted best in Conquest. I don't really like it in Breakthrough. It's playable, but it's nothing like the best I've seen in any Battlefield game. You know, if you opt to play Redacted on Breakthrough by choice, and you find that to your liking, you are a little bit disturbed. You do know that, right? Well, do you think I'm wrong? Well, let me know in the comments below, and until next time, see you on the battlefield. Cheers!